Okay, so we're recording. Uh,
Will you share
the,
the link with us?
yeah, I will. I
Perhaps?
will.
Okay, great.
It may not get published maybe for another week, okay, and we'll
Okay.
get more into that as I go along.
Okay.
The reason that I've asked you guys to join me tonight is because basically I have decided what our house will do as far as Passover when we will celebrate it. And I'm going to explain to you and show you today why I've decided this. And then I'm going to ask you, as men well read in the Bible, if you can see any reason, not traditions that we've been taught. I'm speaking of any
Right.
biblical reason that we're looking at that I cannot or I should not say to the rest of the world, which is always my platform. I never say this is what you should do. I say me and my house, we will be doing this, and this is why we will be doing it. So as men well versed in those scriptures concerning the year, I've asked you to come together with me and look at my evidence and tell me, give me some feedback tonight. I would actually like you to take a week and pray, and we'll meet back together next week on a secondary Zoom, because sometimes we need to get before God and check everything. And I'm willing to do that, and I'm willing to submit to myself to that process. I have tried very, very hard when I look at everything to be extremely cautious. And Brother Norman will tell you, we've had many conversations leading up to this day, and I'm very cautious about saying what I think will happen. I just won't do it. I do not forecast. The way I see it is the business of how the barley gets to be Abib belongs to Elohim. My business is to recognize when it gets there. So I don't forecast, and I try to stay out of that realm that says, if this plus this, then that. I try to stay completely out of that. All right. I'm going to have to try to share some stuff with you, and I apologize. I'm not the greatest at this, but we're going to go for it. I've got to get a program open, I think. So I went to the field today, as I said, and this is the early field. The first thing I want to tell you is I had no intention or plans of making this year like centered around this field. That was the furthest thing from my mind. Okay, we were, and I've said this, but I think it's good to just repeat it since we're recording. We were literally driving from our house down to Tzemach shopping center at the junction of 90 as it turns to go towards Jerusalem. And as we come around the traffic circle, my eyes are always looking on the land. As we come around the traffic circle, I'm going, my goodness, is that barley? And I'm saying, is that barley? And so I told my husband, I said, that's barley. We go around the traffic circle again to make sure. No, that's barley. And so we went on to the store. We did our business. When I came back, I made a U-turn to the gas station. I parked in front of the gas station, and I went down to the field, and it was barley out of the boot. And I think that was about, I don't know, I don't remember the date, but it's all recorded. The biggest reason I still use Facebook is because their timeline remembers the dates that I don't remember. I'm free not to have to remember these details. If I record it and if I put it on Facebook in a timely manner, I know when it happened. So it is on Facebook, but it was very, very early. I think it's been 5 weeks ago already that the barley was actually beginning to come out of the boot in this field.
24th of December.
Thank you. I just don't remember these things. I mean, and quite frankly, it's because I live here. I don't have to remember. I don't have to remember. I just have to be ready for Passover. I just have to be ready for unleavened. So I don't have to remember this stuff. So I'm looking at the field, and I know in the years past it has been planted. And I can tell it has not been planted this year. But I have no idea what's growing in this field. If it's been planted in wheat, then the barley I'm seeing could be the only barley in that field. What comes up past that could be oats, could be volunteer domestic wheat from previous plantings. It could be many things. It could be full of weeds and stuff because this was still very early on. And so when I shared that, I was already kicking myself, man, you don't know what's in that field. And so anyway, I just let it go. So let's go there now. The animals have been in there. The deer have been the problem this year. If you look on that Facebook page, you will see I put a video up. Because of the heavy rains, we have a large, beautiful herd of deer, the Israeli deer. There's about 30 head of deer that are all herding together, and they've been bedding down in this field. And you could see where the depressions were and where they had eaten some of the barley. And then I think now Asher's sheep have been in there as well. Let's see if I can take you here with me. Open this up. I have never shared from my photos program. Can you guys see the photos on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. These are all from today. I'm going to try to go down here to the very beginning. Now, I don't know if you're going to be able to hear audio. I will be able to hear audio, and I will tell you if I'm seeing anything exciting as we go.
No, you can, but then you would need to share sound as well.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
No, I
can't-
mean, I think we're hearing it, but then I think you've shared your sound, so that's good.
Okay. I didn't want to share. Okay, so let me just get out of that one. I was going to try to share you an earlier one. Bit primitive here. Okay.
Becca, will you be able to share these photos with us as well?
I'm
These are
going to
really
put these
excellent.
together in a video in the long
Okay.
run. Okay.
Okay.
I just did not do it today because I basically just sat down. It's been just a very, very busy day. Okay, I'm trying to find, I believe this is a video. Okay, so the first thing before we start this, I want you to see, if you look over in here, you can see areas, and we'll look at this more in detail. You can see areas where they've been in here eating. What has happened is the barley has not grown back, but as they've ate the existing barley, the other barley seeds that didn't germinate because this was already too tall have since germinated. So there was an early barley that a lot of it was eaten, and then there has also, because we've had, my goodness, more than 7 days of rain, there's also been a later barley that's germinated.
And Becca, just for the
Yes.
record, this is all up by Perea?
All of this is on the traffic circle is the junction for Alamot. For
Yeah, just it's up there in Northern Galilee is what I just want to get a general area.
it's just a couple of kilometers from my house. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing is frankly, we don't know what the other areas are doing.
Exactly.
You know, so when we're looking at this, remember what we have believed, and I'm going to use the word what we have believed a lot, because we have believed it. And I'm not trying to be ugly. We have believed it.
No.
We have believed that if it's this far along in the north, it's going to be way farther along in the south. Because it's just like the US. Strawberries are ready in Florida before they're ready in Michigan. Okay, same thing. So keep in mind that this is in the north. Okay, here we go. And you're going to hear me blubber and rambling, and a lot of it is just my shock and talking. I don't project. I didn't know what I would find, and it was pretty shocking what I did find. Okay, guys. I'm taking my exercise in this field. And I want to show you what's going on. Just lost the head off my tripod. Great. You can see that there's been grazing down in this area. In the beginning, it was just the deer. But now I think that we're dealing with even grazing from Asher sheep. But you can see, let me see if I can bring you in and let you see what I see. How short. Okay, this is the regrowth. These are new grains. This is not regrowth on old stalks. These are the new grains that have come up since it has been eaten. They're very short and the grain heads are very tiny. That dry season that we had apparently threw the new growth into shooting out a very quick head. Those heads are. They're tiny. Can you see how tiny they are?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right there.
Yeah. Very tiny.
They're very short.
That is regrowth after it's been chewed down. Okay, so let's go to the next video. I am going to try to do this in a hurry. First of all, turn slowly. Oh, this is just how big the field is. Okay, let's talk about the size of the field. I have a dunam. A dunam is 1/4 of an acre. Okay, this field was easily 5 to 6 times the size of my property. So that means it's about 1.5 acres. It is not a small field. Okay, it's a very large field. And I'm just panning to show you, but you can see right here, all of this is barley heads out of the boot. As I'm panning, anything that looks white and silvery, this is all barley. Yes, which is a dunam. All of that, that's all barley. Is easily more than. All of this is barley. All of this is out of the boot. Acre. That's the very first thing. It's a huge field. All of this is barley back here. The second thing is that. And see, this is eaten here. I don't know if you can see where the animals have been in here eating or not. This all has died back. There are places in this field where the animals have eaten, and apparently at the time it was eaten, it was hot enough that these plants have turned white. This was all knee-high the first time that I was here, and you can see some of the dieback and regrowth. And I'm going to turn over here behind me slowly so I don't make you drunk, hopefully. You can still see all of this has been eaten down, right? Very slowly. Pray for me that I don't get caught. And here, we're getting into some of the regrowth. Okay, these little bitty heads, they're very short. This was only as tall as my shoe.
Oh.
Wow.
That was only as tall as my shoe. This had been almost to my knees. So when this came back in a hurry and made a head very fast. Yes, I'll stop and take a few photos of the regrowth. All right.
Becca, while you're going to the next video, when you say a head, what condition is a head? Is it milk? Is it nothing? Is it seed? What is it?
We're going to get into this. In this field, there is everything from new grains that are empty and have not yet bloomed. The vast majority of what I saw was either blooming or past. I would say 3 to 5% was soft dough. I would say 50% is warm up unto and approaching soft dough. What I call warm is when it squeezes out and it's slimy. There's a squeezing out when it's slimy. And then there's a soft dough that it squeezes out and it's not so slimy. It's more just like a grain that slipped out of the casing.
Becca, sorry, what percentage was worm stage again? So
50% of the field was
50%.
was worm to. Let me say, Norm. Let me back up. 50% of
Sure.
the barley that was standing and out of head, the older barley, that stuff you saw on the
okay.
south end that was standing tall,
Yes.
from halfway down the field, halfway down the length, the animals had not been on the south end. Very, very, very little damage on that south end. Okay, so 50% of that south end, probably
south end.
about a quarter to a third of an acre, was either worm, soft dough, soft dough predominantly, and some medium dough.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. I think we were here for this one.
Wow.
Now, thankfully, this field has not been gotten into on this way end. Down on this south end here. You can still see there's a lot of tall standing barley. I'm headed down there to check the condition of the grain heads. Okay. Go up. Okay. Look at how beautiful this barley is.
Yeah, that's.
Oh yeah.
Barley that has not been touched yet. A lot of this barley was knocked down yesterday. There was 5 centimeters added to the Kinneret last night, as well as we had a horrific hailstorm.
So hail knocked that down.
The hail and the heavy rains. Okay. The animals did not waller this down like we call. I'm sorry, I'm from the South. We call it an animal waller. When they bed in it and they waller it, they mash it. So this is not that. This is from the storms yesterday.
As in Exodus 9 or whatever it was, when the barley was hit by the hail and knocked down, basically.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
And then, okay.
Well, and we had heavy winds. There was in my weather
So this
group,
barley was struck. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's
so this,
okay.
You could say this barley was struck.
By wind even. And in my weather group, there was one area in Israel that had wind gusts up to 117 kilometers an hour. So we had heck of a storm system yesterday.
This barley, to me, looks like it'll stand back up once the sun gets on it for a day or so.
It may or it may not, but it'll go ahead and ripen.
What Norman's talking about is the barley being destroyed in Exodus. So to me, that barley's still salvageable, and you can it'll stand up a bit. So you can get at with your combine or scythe or whatever you want to use.
Yeah.
But when it's destroyed, it'll be broken off, broken over. The stem will be busted so that you can't get it.
Well, okay. I've also had stems. So I'm sure a lot of us have, but I grew barley, and then we had a heavy rain on it, and it laid flat, and the stem kinked, and it would not stand back up.
Okay.
Just because it was so wet.
Yeah. But either way, honestly, this will ripen. And either way, if you're using a half moon hand sickle, I've done it. You just reach in and get a handful of it, pull it up to you, and cut it off. So this is harvestable barley beyond a shadow of a doubt when it's ready. Okay, here we go. I want to check further down the hill. Now we've been told that because this is downhill, that this barley will ripen later. Logically so, because the water drains down the hill.
I'm on a call.
I guess we could say the condition of this would tell us the condition of the stuff on the high end if the animals hadn't eaten it. All right. I do check some barley in here. Here we go. On the bottom end. Again, there is a grain, divisible, squeezable. super soft dough. This
This
from my
one was
experience
slimy.
planting that last year that was super soft
Hmm.
dough. This will not make flour and it will not grow after itself.
Okay, that deserves a stop and an explanation. The barley that I harvested in Ryeem last year and brought home that was medium dough, Devorah State Tree released an article that said that the reason that my decision to start the year was not good was because medium dough barley was immature and unacceptable. So I planted that medium dough barley and I made a video of it today. Not only did it grow, it's coming out of the head itself. So medium dough barley not only will roast and make flour, but 101% it will germinate and it will grow a plant. Okay.
Becca, sorry,
Yes.
just point of clarification. I was listening in the audio, and then the last few seconds you said something about. So in your video, were you commenting? Yeah, I want to make sure that
Let
I
me back it up.
I agree
what
with
I said.
Okay,
Nope, I'll back it up some more.
great.
I think I said it was soft dough, super soft dough.
This will not make flour and it will not grow after itself.
That's what I'm saying. It's super soft dough. It's worm stage. It's slimy. I planted some of that last year. Okay, I'm planting everything that I harvest to say what will grow and what will not. The barley that I planted that was in this stage that I harvested last year did not germinate. And
Okay.
that's what I was
Okay.
referring to.
Got it. That's what. Yeah, thank you. Perfect.
If you took the barley in
And
this
then-
stage right now and let it dry overnight, would it form a seed? Or is it still too early for that? If you were to cut that barley that you just videotaped today,
It
and
would make a
stand it over-
seed.
it would make a seed that you could ground in the flour,
No, not
that you
that.
could roast.
No, not that. Not
So-
that.
so-
That's too soft. That one I did just there, that's too soft.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to check this patch now, but
I tried to check sections all over the field. This is all the same field. I'm moving all over the field. I'm moving from east to west. I'm moving from north to south. I'm moving from the lowest spot to the highest spot. Okay. One of the things that I saw last year that I'm seeing this year is that the east side of the field develops first. It seems that the grains like the morning sun. And the east side of the fields seem to be, the last 2 years seem to be further developed than the west side.
we are really quite a ways from the gas station where I parked my car. That's where I left my tripod way back there. So we've come down quite a ways. And I'm going to take some barley again. In this area here, the rains have mashed this down. The heavy rains and hail we had yesterday have mashed this down. So I'm going to take some samples from here, and I'll test this and let you see. I got to go back and get my tripod.
Sorry, I forgot my tripod.
Okay, I'm just going to take these grains over here that are standing up, okay? Yesterday, I'm sure these other ones were standing up, but you just have to realize we went up 5 centimeters in the Connecticut last night, so we had abundant rain. I can see some of those over there are in bloom, and we may not have any green heads in this one. Doesn't feel like it.
Grains in the head, I
There's a
missed.
certain feeling when you pick them up. Yeah, no, I think that this is empty. This may have water. So these are empty on the lower end. There's just the beginning of a little piece of grain in there.
All right, another one.
Now I'm going to head over to that little elevation over there and check.
I'm going right back over here.
I think I'm in about almost the lowest part of the field. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to check an elevated area.
Okay, this next one, I believe, is the one I left my camera running the whole
Okay,
time.
here we go. This is rather exciting. What my eyes are seeing, it's rather exciting. I can literally see.
Okay, do you see these grains here, how
Yeah.
white they are?
Yes.
They were
Mhm.
up and had bloomed before we had that month with the rain that had shut off. This is the most advanced barley in that field. These actually, before the rains, had literally started to change to a tan color.
Before the rains.
Before the rains, yeah.
A huge difference in the maturity of the grains here. Whoops, almost tripped on my camera.
That one just fell apart in my hands, by the way. I don't say that, but it was like, just fell apart.
I can't squeeze it. I can divide it. That, oh my gosh, that's soft dough.
Medium dough.
Rather. That's medium dough. I cannot squeeze the guts out of it. I can't squeeze the guts out of it. Okay, it's time to take a good look at this section here.
Okay, this, I believe I left my camera running for a long
Do
time
you see
on this.
how white
Okay,
they
we'll
are?
go back. If I'm walking around with my camera, I'll turn it off because I forgot to turn it off in one of these videos.
There's people on the tower over there. Do you see the grains here are turning white? Do you see how white
This
they
end
are?
of the field was the most developed right here. And there was,
The barley here is still just beautiful.
in this section, I would say there was probably a good 2%. The section, not the field. In this section, there was probably a good 2% of medium dough barley.
Just beautiful. Let's go over here on this higher end and check some of this barley.
And for the record, we
And you
have
will
6 weeks, 6 weeks before Passover would be here if we began the new year this month. This
Yes.
coming month.
Yes, for the record, that's right.
Realize that this has happened because we had that month without.
Look at how white this patch is over here. Notice I didn't cherry pick that, but it's still white.
Rain. My camera doesn't fall over.
It was cold still. It still is cold.
It's warm.
That one's worm.
It's warm. But I'm going to tell you in here, I can see barley. Let's go over here.
See,
That's matured past worm in this area.
I'm very, very careful not to be accused of cherry picking. I could have gone through that field and I could have shown you only medium dough barley. Okay, I didn't do that. I tried to just reach out and take a sample. You'll see this barley right here is in bloom. Do you see it's in bloom right here? Those little hangy things. There's barley in bloom right there. That was very slimy.
It's very soft dough. It's not far from being medium dough. We're going to go a little higher.
What I'm doing is I'm just going up the elevation. to track how much more advanced it's going to be as I go up the elevation. But you can see those heads are white.
Mhm.
It's not going to take anything to kick these over. Alexa can't see me when I have to turn out of the sun. Man, that's just before medium dough. Just before. Okay, I'm going to stop that there. Have you guys seen enough? I mean, basically, we're just doing, I'm doing that. I can show you some photos. My photos reflect that the barley is blooming in various places of the field. So what we have is we have blooming barley up unto areas that are medium dough. They won't squeeze out of the grain.
And could I clarify?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, brother. So you saw blooming barley up
Yes.
into areas of medium dough.
Mm-hmm.
And just out of curiosity, was there perhaps a sheaf worth of medium dough in any location,
No.
or was it all
No.
not uniformly?
Do you know what? Excuse me. I did bring barley home to open right now for you. So just
Great.
let me go get it. I forgot to bring it with me.
Super.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So not a sheaf worth.
Not yet.
Right.
6 weeks to go.
Well, depend. Yeah, it's
Okay, this is just, you can
Let's
see I
talk about
brought the
that later.
roots and everything. And this was just, I reached in and grabbed a handful, but full disclosure, this was the most mature area, okay? That last place we were looking at. Joe, you're smiling. If you could see my car, you can't ever get into it without finding barley year round.
Yeah, I remember.
Okay, did you see how easily that came apart? Okay, Did you see what's happening with that? All right.
You may have to hold it a little higher though.
There you go.
Okay, that's the grain. Can you see it?
Yeah.
All the force I can give it. That's
Just describe
not
what it's doing, Becca. I'm having a hard time seeing it.
It's
You're off screen. You're off screen.
just let me see if I can do this. It'll be easier on me if I pin myself. If I can pin myself.
Joe, are you on gallery view or are you on speaker view?
I'm on gallery. I'm going to pin you now.
Switch to speaker, and then you can
Okay.
see.
So see, there's very little. Well, actually, there's nothing squeezing out of it. This is medium dough. Okay, let's do another one.
Save some of this for tomorrow or the day after. I want to see what happens the day after.
Okay.
Please.
And I just reached in. This would be reaching in and grabbing a handful, all from the same location. This was not saying I'm going to take this one. This is just okay. This is here. I'm going to grab a handful. So this will give you a good idea. So this is this one. This one doesn't come apart as easy. That one just barely squeezed. No, it didn't actually. I thought I felt it pop, but it didn't pop. That one's not popping either. I've cut it in half and I'll squeeze it. No, that's not coming out of the grain. There's plenty of starch in that. We're just going to do, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more. How many more do you guys want me to do? It's up to you. I mean, I'm satisfied. I did this for you guys. How many more of these guys do you guys want me to do?
I'm satisfied. I'd just like to see it tomorrow.
Okay. Anybody else want to see another one?
Just one.
I'd like to see one more.
One more. Okay. So this is just the next one I had in my hand.
Please.
Okay. The awns, I've never seen this before because of the season. The awns are very brittle. All right. I've never seen that before. So my question is going to be to you guys. In the book of Joshua, when they came into the land, they did not send out barley inspectors to search the land to see if that was the earliest barley. That one squeezed. That one's squeezing. I don't know if you can see that little bit that come out on my finger right there. So this one to me is just before being medium dough because I can still squeeze it, but it's not slimy. When Joshua came into the land, he didn't send out inspectors to make sure we had the earliest barley in the land. He just had barley at the correct timing. It may be that we don't come out of lockdown. I don't have a problem saying that we've got enough barley to declare a new year in about 6 weeks, when I know that in the next week, it's going to be dry for at least a week and the temperatures are going to go back up. We don't have any rain in the forecast for the next 7 to 10 days.
Interesting.
Could I ask you from another angle, and then I'm hoping that if you respond from another angle, then you'll help me give you. Okay, so we did that we did the calculations before, and so when you declared the barley on, or excuse me, be careful, choose the right words here. Excuse me, I don't mean to say that. So on December the 24th, you went to that field and you saw that there was barley that was out of the head when you're describing. And so we saw that there was 5 weeks from there to a hypothetical, purely hypothetical wave sheaf offering on the 31st of January. So, and then everything went into lockdown and the weather turned cold again and the whole bit. But so now we still have 10 days to go. So, and then everyone was in lockdown on the day of the new moon sighting. So there was no possibility of inspecting fields and this kind of a thing. But so we still have 10 days to go until the 31st, when the wave sheaf would hypothetically be offered if this was the month of it. So,
And Norman, can I just interrupt there for a second? Because I'm a bit confused. Are you a month earlier than the rest of us, or this year?
So Becca, can I just give a short history of my thought process? I'm more interested in your thought process, but I want to learn from, because you're the expert witness here. So we're here to hear your testimony, what you found and what you've seen. So just to explain to Joe. So when Becca published on the 24th of December that she saw this barley, and we were like, wow, that's out of the boot. That's wow. Okay. So
Right.
Becca explained, we had some discussion, and Becca explained later that in a normal spring with temperatures up in the 80s Fahrenheit or 26 centigrade or whatever it is, if it was a normal hot spring, yes, it would take 4 weeks for that to progress all the way to modern combine. These are not Becca's words, but we found a chart that was published by the University of Wisconsin, and it was showing that once barley emerges from the sheaf on day 58 or whatever it is, and then you add another 31 days to that, and then it's ready, modern combine ripe. So 31 days, that's 4 weeks and 3 days, or 4.5 weeks basically. And so Becca explained, she said, well, yes, if hypothetical, if this was hypothetically a normal hot spring with days in the 80s or 25C, then yes, that chart on average would be, generally speaking, reliable. But that's not the case here in Israel this year, because it's still cold. Even though the weather was unseasonably warm, you're talking more highs around 60, 65.
We were talking 68 to just below 80 during that time of no rain.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
When the rains came, it had just warmed up enough that I had begun to sleep with the window open at night. It was warming up at nighttime too. And then the rains came.
Wow. Okay.
I'm sorry, how much is that in Celsius? Because Fahrenheit, Celsius. Sorry.
65 to 70 Celsius would be around 18, I think.
All right.
Okay. So what we were looking at is, we were saying, my mental thought process at that point was like, okay, wait a minute. So if this was a normal spring and the weathers were warm, if you had 26 Celsius or 80 Fahrenheit, then it would take 4.5 weeks or 31 days to go to modern combine ripe, but it would only be, say, 28, I'm guessing here, Becca, I'm sure she knows better than I do, but say like 28 days to go to ancient sickle ripe when you're doing it by hand, so you don't lose the grain. So we were thinking, whoa, okay, if it only takes 4 weeks to go to ancient sickle ripe in a normal hot spring, then if we've got 5 weeks, and we only need to go perhaps to medium dough, and medium dough is like a week and a half before sickle ripe. So what we were thinking is, okay, so normally it would take like 2.5 by the time the barley emerges from the head, and then you go like another, Becca, correct me if this is wrong, but if you had like another 2.5, 3 weeks in a normal hot spring, you would arrive at medium dough.
See, I'm not comfortable with any of these parameters. I truly am not.
Understand.
I know what I've been taught and what has been explained to me. And I know those patterns out there exist, but they're all based on hybrid grains. Okay. I was frankly surprised that the barley was this advanced, because I didn't think that the warm up was significant enough to cause the grains to mature to some of the levels that I had saw. So that's why I try not to think what's going to happen with the barley, Brother Norman. I try simply to be present and tell you what's going on. I think the details of how it gets to where it goes, and I know you don't like this answer, belongs to Elohim and not to me.
No, I agree with that, but when you have to declare at the time of the sighting of the moon, how do you not project 2 weeks out, or 15 to 21 days out? How does one? It's the night of the sighting of the moon,
right?
And we in this whatever the year is, whatever the parameters are. So we know it's going to be between 15 and 21 days until the day of the wave sheaf offering. And we don't, in ancient times, they didn't have modern weather forecasting. So you have no idea if the cold is going to come, or if it's going to stay hot, or what it's going to do. Yeah.
You don't. So let me tell you, Joshua 3:15 says that when they crossed the Jordan River and the priests put their foot into the water, that the water stood tall because the Jordan River overflowed its banks all the time of the harvest. And I have sung this song till I'm blue in the face. In Israel, when it rains, it's cold. When it doesn't rain, it gets warm. Simple. It's simply that simple. Peter was warming himself by the fire when they were trying Yeshua inside the temple. It had either rained or it was going to rain. Okay? So that's what I'm saying is I honestly feel like we've been given this book and we've turned this page. We've got abundant rain in the last 2 years. And we're throwing away our patterns that we have been taught to look at.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's well said.
Can I jump in?
I want to, if I could, please, Joe, let me ask Becca one more question and then complete the thought, and then I'll be able to give you the answer that you asked for. So I guess, because we're talking about the possibility, and I agree, I understand, we're talking about the possibility of 6 weeks until feast. But I guess, so my just to answer my doubt and my question in my own mind, so what I see is that we have blooming barley up into medium dough.
Yes, sir.
And if I understand what Becca is saying, is that she's saying that medium dough is acceptable as a wave sheaf offering, because she not only was she able to harvest it and then take it back and plant it away from a hot zone, like, I don't know, 2 meters or whatever off of her driveway. And so it is viable. It is toastable.
Yes.
You can parch it.
Yes.
So it's good. So medium
and I'm going
dough,
to try to go more into that this year as I harvest. Okay. Go ahead.
Sorry. So I guess just to complete the thought. So my question is, if we have, in ancient times, we have no idea what the weather's going to do. So we have to take a safe approach. We have to take a very conservative approach.
Absolutely.
But assuming bad weather,
Mhm.
How far can barley advance in 11 days? I guess
Okay.
would be my question.
We've talked frequently about the point of no return
Mm-hmm,
for barley.
yeah, right.
For me, barley has to date. Okay. But everything I tell you is subject to change as I learn more. Okay. To date,
I mean,
barley for me has reached the point of no return when it enters the worm stage.
Worm stage. Thank you.
Because there is somewhat in there. You can get a teeny bit of flour, but it will not reproduce after itself.
Okay. Okay. So I guess because I realize, I understand your hesitancy to declare anything, or your hesitancy.
Well, no,
and
it's
agree
that
completely.
I really feel like we turned a page and we don't know anything. Whether you want to talk about the weather or whether you want to talk about old patterns that actually were wrapped up in 50 years of drought. We haven't been in drought the last 2 years. The Kinneret is full.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
All of our records that we have, all of our patterns are
Mm-hmm.
based in a time of severe drought. I'll give you a link to the website for the Kinneret, and it shows since 1968 the water table. And all of the records we have for the last 18 to 20 years, with the exception of this year and last year, have been at times when the Kinneret is so low that they almost stop pumping the water out of the Kinneret. And that's not now.
Okay. But I guess my question is, so in 11 days, do you feel that barley field would advance to, and I realize you don't like to predict, but given 11 more days, will that barley advance to medium dough?
According to what they're predicting with the weather, that is no rain and that we're going to return to the warmer weathers we had, I don't see a reason why it wouldn't, but I will be checking.
Okay, but we don't, I guess to answer it, so we don't know that, if we were in ancient times, we wouldn't know the modern weather forecast.
If we were in ancient times, we would know, because we would be living and dying by the land.
Right.
We don't live and die by the land.
Right, but we don't know what the weather comes tomorrow.
Right, but what I am saying is, if I'm let's say if I'm Yossi Cohen and I've got 15 children and every grain of barley is important to me to feed my children every year, I'm going to be well studied in the barley on my land, and I'm going to be better able to predict it. I am at best still a part-time observer on the land of Israel. If I lived in a yurt in the middle of a field, then I would be a full-time observer. But right now I'm still a part-time observer, and I don't consider myself an expert in the land, especially with this major shift we've had in the last 2 years.
Yes. Okay. So I think, so if I, just to try to complete the thought process to answer Joe's question, to be respectful to him. So 2 parts. So first part, with 11 days remaining, if we knew that the weather was going to continue to be warm like it is now, like they're predicting.
75 degrees, 78 degrees, 11 days remaining, good to go.
Good to go. But in ancient times, we don't know the ancient weather. So I mean, in ancient times, we don't know the weather. So in ancient times, it could hypothetically turn cold tomorrow. And so if you're not really sure, then you wouldn't want to risk it.
Right.
Okay,
right.
Perfect. So,
but you know what though? Okay, so if we're going to talk ancient times, if we're going to go to that place, there was a Levite in every village that sat in the gates, city gates. He was there to judge and teach. And I don't know if you all know this, but in the city gates on either side were storehouses that were Levitical. And that's where you took your offerings. Okay, so they didn't have that far to go. Once that national offering was, that first fruits was offered, they didn't have that far to go to give that to that Levite. He was right in that. So, you know, after that first fruit, the pressure is basically off, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
So if we're going to talk about ancient temperatures and what they would have done, and we also have to factor in that the distance to give it to the Levite was the city gate.
Right. So all I'm saying is based on what you've just said, yes, to answer Joe's question, yes, I'm in agreement with next month.
Okay.
Because I was pushing, it was a question in my mind, is it possible, because you know that back on December the 24th, when I saw that, I thought, wow, are we looking at a wave sheaf on January 31st?
Right.
And then now with all the details, and I appreciate that your time in this and the the expertise, although you're not an expert yet, but it's yeah. So yeah, no, I agree. Next month to answer Joe's question.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
can I? I've been
100%.
quiet here. You got me totally confused now.
Oh,
and
sorry.
this is a recorded message, and I don't know who's going to see it later on. So I want to make sure that we all understand. You were, up until a moment ago, you were saying that Passover was going to be January 31st. So you are now into the first month of the year.
Well, okay, full disclosure.
But hang on, because I'm right now, for me, this coming Sabbath will be the 9th of the 12th month. And then Passover will be February 28th or thereabouts. So I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from in your questioning, so I can understand what you're asking, so I can understand. You were believing that January 31st could possibly be Passover, and you were just dropping a whole month based on the December 24th barley report. Am I right? Do I understand that correctly?
I wouldn't use those words.
I'm just trying to get right to the point. Beating around the bush.
I get. If I could I?
Let me cut to the chase.
I don't mean to hijack Becca's thing, but yeah.
Let me cut to the chase. Okay, so there's this guy that has decided that the new year began with this sighting of the new moon, because he has
the past sighting of the new moon.
Right, this past sighting of the new moon.
Okay.
Because he has declared for himself and for his followers that we don't offer wild barley, it's weeds. We can't offer something that
What?
we didn't work to grow. So he's using the domestic barley in Israel, and someone that he trusts has assured him that from the new moon of our 12th month, 14 days forward, there would be a wave sheaf from the domestic barley
From the new, so that last part, from the new moon,
of the
Come again?
12th month.
the new moon of the 12th month.
14 days forward, there would be a wave sheaf from the domestic barley in the land of Israel. Now, where he gets some, I ask, would you tell me where this field is so that I can go look at it? There is no answer.
Oh,
He would not respond. Okay.
Hmm.
So
it
just
begs-
for the record's sake, we are in the 12th month. We're looking at the barley. It's in the dough stage, roughly. And we've got 6 weeks approximately till the potential Passover as of this recording right now, January 21st, 2021.
That's right. But
Just for the record, that's all.
But just
okay,
let
I'm
me
good.
say this. We've got another wave of rain coming, they say, another nosedive into a big stretch of a cold, rainy period.
Mhm.
Okay? So that's why I keep saying I don't orchestrate it. I just tell you what I see. Okay? God orchestrates. Yah, Elohim, Yehovah, Yahweh. He orchestrates how it gets there.
Mhm. Okay. And right now, that barley that you have in the back of your car and in your living room there, tomorrow could be ready to be roasted and could be, right?
Could
It
be.
has that potential. If not, then maybe in a week or two, that barley might then be able to be roasted, is what
Right,
you're
but there's
showing
not
us
enough
today.
in the field of it to make a wave sheaf. That's the other thing. Please do remember that. There is not enough in the field to make a wave sheaf.
We're just,
before or after the
we're
sheep
just
graze.
looking.
Right. That's right. That's
Follow the cloud.
the follow the cloud.
Well, not the rain cloud, but
Yeah.
But that is what we're doing. We're trying to follow the cloud, following his instructions, he's the one that's going to make the barley ripe, or he's not going to make the barley ripe. He's the one that's going to make the moon visible or not visible
That's
when
right.
it should be.
That's right.
So we can't go by projected visibility, and we can't go by projected barley ripeness.
That's right.
But I agree with that in general, but in specific, there is the point. I mean, you do have to project at least from the day of the new moon sighting, the projected or anticipated state of the barley 15 to 21 days later.
And I do it when I do it sick at my stomach. I will do it, but I do it sick at my stomach. It
Can
is
I-
something
can I-
that
But-
is fearful.
But how do you?
Let
But
me
how do
speak
you-
to that, because Nehemiah gave a teaching, and I use it all the time, where they kept Passover one year. And then these people came along and said, no, the barley wasn't ripe. And they kept it the following month again. So I will prepare for Passover February 28th, and I'll do 11. And if I'll keep the holy day, and then on the day before wave sheaf day, if I got a report that it's not ready, it's still all dough and still all milk, I'm going to keep Passover February, March.
Right, right.
But I will prepare as if it is. And if it's not on wave sheaf day, because that's when we need the barley. We don't need the barley for the first of the year. We need the barley for
agree.
wave sheaf day. That's the only reason we're looking for it.
Right,
Right.
right. So I have presented to you my evidence. Here are the things I'm concerned about. I have a person who stands very staunchly against everything I do. If no inspection is able to happen, is there anything in the scripture to prevent me from saying that this field is enough for the work I do? Number one. Number two, you've seen the damage in the field from the animals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was a big issue last year. And it was interesting that after I had found the barley to be which we're going to go back to that here in just a second. Don't let me forget to talk about the animals and the barley for that field. After I had found the barley to be as advanced as it was, and then I went back a second time to look, the animals had eaten the grains, and that person came in behind and was very upset. Oh my gosh, this is a filthy field. The animals have wallowed in it. There's animal dung in the field, and we know the field is the world. It's not a pristine golf course.
Right.
The parables say the field represents the world. Okay. So now let's go back to the field on the north end. We learned last year, Joe, you'll remember this, that those animals eat the grain heads when there's something in them.
Yep.
Right.
And they've already mowed the north end of that field on the high end.
Right. And that's going back. So if I could, Becca, redirect me if this isn't pleasing to you, but that's kind of where we were coming from as we were looking back in December the 24th. We're saying, okay, we got 5 weeks and we only need like.
So I guess, no, I understand where you're coming and you're not saying it. Okay, it's like knowing when the month starts. The Bible doesn't say from the new moon sliver. The Bible doesn't tell us you shall have 12 months, you shall have 13 months.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
This stuff is not written down. Okay.
Right.
That's something you're going to have to wrestle out. Right. My perspective on it is, regardless of when the barley shows up, Elohim, let the animals eat that barley. We don't have anything to look at. That is in his will for what we've been given.
Do you want to start examining the excrement of the animals, see what comes out the other end?
Yeah. You want to come help? Go ahead.
I would love to come help. I'm trying to get there.
But what I'm saying is, so the animals have already mowed the higher ground, the northern end of the field. So we know that whatever it was on the northern end of the field was more likely in a more advanced stage.
But we don't know what it would be. We don't know what it would be if it was still standing, because of this vast stretch of very wet, very cold. Look, we looked at these white grains. Remember, we looked at the white grains that they were starting to turn white, and they were not hard dough. They were not medium dough. They were still in that soft dough stage. So if we project that the stuff on the north end would also have been white and in the same condition as the other white grains, then it wouldn't be ready now. I know that's the question you're asking. If we look at what was left behind, then the stuff they took wouldn't be ready now.
Okay. But so I guess what this gets into, so we also had a real good text discussion about this. So one of the things that we've all been taught or at least myself, I just speak for myself. So one of the things that I was taught however many years ago, and then I've been kind of going along with, and then I've had questions the last several years, and then last year it finally crystallized is, wait a minute, so there's a big question in the movement is the wave sheaf, is that something that we offer first and then it clears the way for the rest of the harvest? Or is the wave sheaf, do we make the harvest and then bring one of the first sheaves? Because those are two very different things.
Okay, this
from the time the sickle starts the harvest, that's Saturday night, from Deuteronomy 14 or 16. From the time the sickle is put to the grain, that's when you start your count. So that's harvest starts wave sheaf day, which is after sunset, Saturday night.
Right, but I think what Brother Norman is asking is are we harvesting the whole field and offering a wave sheaf from what we've harvested? So from what I have seen in every field I've ever been in, none of them are perfectly flat. The example is what we have today. There's higher end of that field, and higher end is going to be ready. Okay, so you're not going to, remember, I'm Yossi Cohen. I've got 15 children. I am not going to let the top end of that field fall to the earth, waiting for the whole field to get to a stage where I can harvest it.
Exactly. So my question then becomes, so let's just hypothetically speaking, just just for, okay, let's just say this was ancient times, and let's say that Yossi Cohen owned that field and he put up a fence around it, and he didn't let his sheep graze it, and he also, anytime he saw a deer, they probably hunted it, bow and arrow, and then harvested the meat for their families.
Right.
So in ancient times, that field, and then plus, we have no idea what's going on in the South or in other parts of the country, but let's just focus on that particular field in ancient times. So Yossi Cohen's got the fence, and the sheep and the deer aren't harvesting that field, so Yossi gets to do it. So on the north end of that field, if we delay the day of the wave sheaf offering for another 4.5 weeks beyond January 31st, would the grain that would hypothetically still be standing in the north end of that field, would it have all dropped its seed? So
We can't say. We can't say because again, when on the east side and the high end, I was looking at those white stalks of barley, they were not medium dough. You would think in the field, if they had a white stalk and if they had a white head, surely they would be approaching what they call a beeb, which is indivisible by the fingernail. You would think,
right,
but
right.
they didn't.
But in another 11 days.
Speculation.
Again, you're going to have to watch the weather. I love it. I love it. I love it because it's all dependent on what Elohim gives us. I love it. It's like a suspense and action movie. You've got to keep your eyes peeled. You've got to look at what's going on around you. What's the weather doing? What's the barley doing?
No
You know,
man will
it's
know the day or the
present
hour.
now. Watch and wait on me.
But okay, but let's just suppose. Okay, so let's just suppose that it's ancient times, and Yossi Cohen has the field, and it's all fenced, and the sheep are out, and the deer are out, and the Levites, the Levitical priesthood, has to be able to give the people forewarning, and has to say, okay, this month is going to be the month of the Passover and the wave sheaf offering, or not yet, because
Right.
they have to make that determination.
Right.
So, and if they happen, so. And it's important, at least some people think it's important for them to do that as soon as possible, because if they delay too long,
Why?
the barley is going to drop its seed.
Because
the farmer's
they
going to
have
lose.
preconceived ideas. You're dealing with people who have preconceived ideas.
You're saying Yossi Cohen has preconceived ideas? What are you saying?
No, you said people think it's important. There are people who think it's important. I'm saying the people who think that this early notice is important have preconceived ideas.
But okay, follow me out on this one, because let's just say that, okay, so the new moon was on the 14th, I think.
14th.
Okay, so then the next new moon, I think, is on the 13th coming up.
12th.
I'm not sure.
12th or 13th.
12th or 13th. Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
So, and then the wave sheaf offering, I have to take a look, but it'd be 15 to 21 days after that. So if the north end of that field was not eaten, and if it would hypothetically be medium dough on the 31st,
Okay.
is it still going to be in the head 4.5 weeks later?
Okay, there's a parable in the New Testament that Messiah says, as soon as the harvest has come, you put the sickle to the grain.
But if you don't declare, I agree, absolutely, because the harvest has come. But if we don't declare the day of the moon, how does he do that? Because he's not allowed to put the sickle to the grain until the day of the wave sheaf offering. And if you say, no, you can't.
If he's the earliest, but see, what you're talking about is an early field. Or, actually, I can't even say that. I've been calling it an early field, but I haven't been anywhere else to see anything. Okay, so let's rewind this whole thing with the field just a minute here. Sure. Because there are some things that you need to understand that this is a pristine field.
Okay.
Okay, not all the fields that we see, like when you go to that area down in Raim, it is not, this was a wild field, but it's so pristine with just barley and very few oats and very few anything else in there. It looks like it could be planted. but it's not. You don't normally see fields that green. What we have this year in the north that is normal is we have 2 other plants that are already knee high. Okay. Interestingly enough, when barley, those wild grains, and my black wheat, my black emmer is growing in this condition, when it grows up with the other tall plants offer it shelter. When it offers it shelter, it doesn't mature as quickly. In my opinion, the reason that we see this field so advanced is because it is clean. There are no other weeds growing with it. The plants I'm talking about is called a mallow plant, and then the wild mustard. Okay, wild mustard, if left to go and grow until Shavuot, it does look like a tree, just like the New Testament says, and that the birds can literally sit on. Okay, roost in. Okay, so these things in my area are waist high to me. And if there's barley growing in there, it's offered shelter to the barley. This barley is far from ready.
Which barley?
The barley that's sheltered in these weeds.
In your yard or in the field?
In most of these other areas where we would inspect or look at the wild barley.
But we're told not to sow our field with mixed seeds. So in ancient times, they would have had a pure field.
They would have had. You're right. But I'm telling you that those pure fields are few and far between. This field, my personal opinion about this field is it is literally a gift from Elohim.
Yeah, I'm into that.
Okay. That I found it on the drive. Okay.
It's stunning. It's
I have
amazing.
been struggling for 3 weeks. Took me 3 weeks of struggling with Elohim about barley inspections. I need to see more than just this field. I've been telling him this. I need to see more. I don't trust this field. I need to see more. And then finally he began dealing with me about Joshua and coming into the land. And I was meditating on that. And then yesterday, the Jordan flooded. And I said, we've got a Joshua Passover. We've got the Jordan River is in flood stage. We've got barley that's going to be ready. And we've got basically a book of Joshua Passover at our feet. Do I need to go inspect any place else? Where is that written in the Bible? See, I'm still struggling with getting these ideas out of my head that I've been trained to think in a certain way. Okay, so I'm telling you all of this because, yes, we should try to look at the cleanest areas. However, you don't see the vast fields of pure barley the way that this one is. I'm just telling you, you don't see it. Yeah.
I understand.
You've asked one question: is this field enough? You asked something about the animals, but I never got what the question was.
So the question is: the animals have been in the field eating. Does that make a difference to the condition of the new year?
Okay, and your third question is: do we need to do more searches? Which you just asked. Do you have any more questions that you're asking?
No, that's just it. And everything that you have seen, is there anything I need to add into my consideration? Because I am at the point with everything that I have, of course, I'm watching. I'm at the point with everything that I have that if we get the dry period and the warm that we're looking for, I'm planning for a next month, a next moon Passover.
I'm also planning for February 28th Passover, as of your testimony that you've shown us so far. Is this field enough? Yes and no. as far as my position is, yes and no. It's one field. I would really, and I don't know if you're able to do this, I would really love to see something down in the south.
I would too.
Just to say, yeah. I would also like to tell you to forget what these other idiots are saying, because those other idiots are also testifying, and I don't mean other idiots. They're idiots when they start to attack you instead of looking at you as another witness. I look at all of them as a witness. They repeat the same things you're saying. The barley is dough, or the barley is Aviv, but it's not Aviv on the 12th or the 30th day of the 12th month. Therefore, it's not Aviv. But their testimony says exactly what you're saying, because 14 days later, or 21 days later, just as Nehemiah did in 2016, he went out on Wave Sheaf Day and it was already beautiful,
Right.
perfect. He confirmed what we were doing.
Wait.
And I appreciate Nehemiah for doing that. Their testimony corroborates with you. So do not worry what they say. You're doing all the stuff that needs to be done. Great. I'm not really interested in storks or lambs or others. I just want to know about the barley.
Yeah.
But that other stuff is interesting. So don't stop it. Do we need more search? I want to say yes.
I do too.
Just because we can, I say we as in the collective we, it's all you right now.
Right.
It's all you. If we can get something down in the south, somebody, and you and I already talked before the meeting started about somebody, but if we can get somebody who can just go out and do a search, even a picture can
But
help.
he's not in the south. He's on the coast.
I know he's on the coast, but he's only an hour's drive, I think,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whereas for you, it's like a 3-hour drive
Mm,
through roadblocks and quarantines and
it's
fines.
going to be the same for him. But yeah, I'll see if he's agreeable. I mean, I can ask.
Even if he can just go outside the city there,
Yeah.
that would also give us an indication as well. But if you got somebody, because I know there's another person who reported last year, and I don't want to say any names because we're being recorded, but reported last year and gave the thumbs down. And that's what certain people are going by, what this person said. I don't know who you can get, but if there's somebody who could just go and say, I would love to fly in there and be the other controversial person. I don't care about that stuff. I just want to know the truth. That's all I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
And that's my platform too. I just want to know the truth. And that's why I called you guys together, is because it is very emotional for me. Number one, I fear Elohim greatly. Number one,
Mhm.
I understand what I'm doing here, and it's fearful. Number two, it is very emotional when you go out in December and you see barley out of the boot. It's very emotional, very scary emotional.
It's you know what my emotions was? You're shaking my traditional tree that we're going to be back on with everyone else in March.
I'm not.
Oh, man.
I don't make the barley grow.
I know, but it's also a witness that Jehovah's doing something. Last year, we kept Passover March 11th. The very same day, who declared a worldwide pandemic. That's, to me, was a confirmation that we're doing something that we need to pay attention to here. So this year, my ears, my antennas are up even higher, paying more attention, trying to make sure that I am looking at everything, because I don't just follow you. I weigh your stuff as a witness, and I have dismissed your witness as 1 year when you were the only witness for the sighting of the moon.
Mm-hmm.
I use everyone else's testimony. Yoel, Brian, Devorah, I use them all. And I listen to what they're saying. They may come out with a different judgment, but I listen to what their testimony is, and I put that all together.
Right.
And it all has to match, and it all has to be ready by Wave Sheaf Day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about the new year. If I get the new year wrong, okay, then we'll do it 30 days later.
Right.
Okay, right,
but-
big deal.
But how can you do that? I mean, so I mean, all right. Can we go back to Yossi Cohen in his field? Because I'm concerned for Yossi. He's on my heart and on my mind, and I want to make sure that him and his children, that they're able to eat, and that they don't have to sell their. I'm afraid that Yossi's going to lose his harvest. I'm afraid that Yossi's going to lose his harvest. He's going to have to turn around, sell his land, in order to make ends meet. Because this is my concern with the early wave sheaf thing. Because here we've got a situation. So we've got 31 days. So in a normal hot spring, we've got 31 days to go from the emergence of the head until modern combine harvest. So let's back that up to 28 days to go from emergence of the head.
That is assuming that the weather conditions are ripe for the grains to be produced
Correct.
in 31 days. If it's
Correct.
cold, which is all determined by Jehovah, if it's cold, then that 31 days is going to be 41 days.
Right.
So you're making assumptions here for poor Yossi that only he can make when he's in the field.
Right.
Not only that, but just also let me help you with this one piece of information. This is not a righteous nation, and we don't have weather that reflects righteousness.
Okay.
Okay. If we're assuming the best of Yossi in his day, and he was a righteous man.
I don't know who Yossi Cohen is.
I don't either. But
You're defending poor Yossi. You don't even know who he is. Okay.
Well, you have to defend the fatherless.
If we're
for the
saying
widow.
Yossi lived in ancient times with 15 children, and he was living in the days that Jehovah was blessing the nation of Israel, okay, it wouldn't be the weather we have now. The weather and the rain that we have had now has been brutal on the grains.
Mm-hmm.
Brutal on the grains. Some of the grains have drowned.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because it came too heavy, too hard, in too short of a period of time. This is not a good kind of rain for the grains. And I saw the same thing last year. Last year, there was yellow barley that barely was hanging on, that finally came out of it with time and as the season dried. So what I would say to you is that the calendar of Elohim is based on blessings for obedience and curses for disobedience.
Right.
So if we're looking at it from an ancient perspective, and it was a time that Israel was pleasing to Elohim, then everything fell out perfectly. It was from what I have seen on the land of Israel, it's a succinct timing that he orchestrates. He orchestrates. It's not science. It's not science. It's his hand. He's the one who gives life to that seed. If he says that seed's not going to grow, that seed's not going to grow. Okay? He is the one that causes it to bear a seed.
Becca, can I ask you the state of your wild barley that you planted yourself? What conditions is it in right now?
Oh, it's coming out of the head.
Okay.
The barley from Raim is coming out of the head, coming out of the boot right now. The heads are showing. There's about 5 or 6 that have heads are completely showing, and the others you can see the little on tips. And
So
they
this
have
field-
been sheltered by the tall plants, the mustard and the mallow.
Okay. So this field that you're looking at is ahead of the wild barley that you have in your garden.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
But again, that's why I was telling you the difference.
Yep.
It's not that field's not sheltered by other plants.
Okay. As far as I'm concerned, if we could get another picture from down south, because I know you're way up north and you're up high, and I'm thinking, man, this is weird. So down south, I'm totally expecting it to be going to seed already.
But okay, so
But I know it doesn't have to be that way.
Let's talk about that. Okay, what I was trained to believe is that there are times about every, I'm making this number wrong, but like every 3 years, that things will happen more quickly in the center. So let's talk about that for a second. I have a lady who's becoming a good friend. She's Orthodox, very, very religious, not quite Dati, but not far from it. And I buy trees from her. They deliver them to the house, and we talk about everything. And she has been telling me that since December, that the thistles in Jerusalem were already knee high. If you take a look at the rainfall in Jerusalem, it's severely behind for the year. What's the barley in the center of Israel going to be doing if they're short on rainfall? You know, the Father puts that mechanism in them to make a seed, regardless of how much rain they have or how much time they have to do it. My gut feeling from everything that Isabella has told me about how the land has developed as they've made their deliveries, my gut feeling is that this may be that year that the center is ready before the south.
Which means that Caesarea would be in the center.
Coastal, but center.
Yeah.
So one question. Okay, so what's the state of the barley in Yossi Cohen's field going to be like in 45 days?
Going to depend from when? From now? Are you talking about the field over here on the corner?
Is this still going to be in the head in 45 days?
Some of it will, yes. I will use a term that we're used to hearing. This is a Leviticus 2:14 field. It's going to have everything in it by the time we get to wave sheaf. How many times have we heard that? This is going to be a Leviticus 2:14 field. And from the way that that was used, that phrase, in my understanding, meant everything from barley that would be their abib to what they call hard caramel. This will be that Leviticus 2:14 field. It's going to be everywhere.
Can I ask, Becca, if I can ask another favor?
Sure.
If you could take some barley at some point and just as a demonstration, roast it so people
I'm
can
going
see
to.
what- Okay.
Yeah,
you.
willing, I'm going to do that. I'm going to roast it and
Show it in the doughy stage that it's
Yeah.
in, and
Yeah.
then roast it and show them what it looks like when it's ready to be offered.
Yeah.
Grind it up, make flour.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't
I'm
think
asking
going
you
to
a lot of work, but
I'm not, well, you know, this year, I understand a little bit more this year. I've been doing a lot of research. This might surprise you that in the Arab nations, they still roast green grains. This is still a deal with them. They still eat. It's a delicacy. They still eat roasted green grains. And so I've been watching these movies out of all of these in Arabic. You can't understand anything, but you can tell what they're doing. I've been watching all these YouTube videos of them roasting these green grains. And once they're roasted, that chaff rubs off really easy.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't have that. That's not as much work as I perceived it to be. I plan on doing a little bit of that this year.
awesome. That will be
Cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's right now.
I don't understand how that barley is going to make it until the 7th of February. But that's okay, you know.
Okay, so to address what Norman's bringing up, is there any indication anywhere?
Excuse me. The 7th of March.
The 7th of March. Okay.
I personally don't understand how the if Yossi Cohen's sheep had not hypothetically eaten the barley on the north end of that field, if it was fenced off and everything was good, I don't understand how Yossi Cohen's barley, because I'm still concerned for Yossi. I don't want him to lose his crop.
Well, you know what
Okay,
we have,
so-
Norm?
but-
We have that white barley. We'll watch that white barley on that stalk, and we'll see what happens to it.
So
Okay.
Becca, Jehovah demonstrated something big time last year, shocked us all.
Yeah.
And as I showed you, I have the tombstones to back you up. And I had to go back to them again this year. Could it be in February? And yes, the tombstones agree with that. But the other thing that is happening, we have brethren that we were a part of who are going by. It has to be ready by the end of the 12th month, and it has to be at a certain stage, and all these rules that they're coming up with. This could be a lot of people sitting on the fence who are sitting, well, I don't know which way to go. So I say we, it's you. We need to demonstrate this step by step as we go forward here, showing the barley, showing this field, and showing it down south. I pray Jehovah will open the door for you to go.
Yeah.
And to show them, you guys are a month late.
Mhm.
It's already reseeding.
Mhm.
Not to be vengeful, not to be, I told you so, but to help them get on the page. Like halfway through the year last year, we had people writing me saying, I was wrong. You guys have been right. I'm starting to keep the fall holy days at the right time. I'm sorry. I said, you don't need to apologize to me.
Right.
I'm glad to see you doing it. But
Right.
we need to demonstrate this so that people can see and learn. And then there's still the other people that are still on the conjunction and the Hillel calendar who are,
Yeah.
what are these guys doing? So all this stuff is important,
Yes.
not to vindicate ourselves, but to help everyone else get in line and get on the same page with Jehovah. Because
I agree.
as you guys all know, by the Jubilee cycles, we are at the end of this 6th millennial day. And the stuff's hitting the fan. And if you're not keeping his holy days at the right time, you're going to pay a dear price. So
Yep.
that's why I believe what you're doing is very important.
No pressure.
No pressure.
But if a miracle happens and the skies open up, I will come and help. But
If a miracle happens, you're welcome, but they've already said they're not opening till April.
yeah, we're not going to
Now,
have
they're
nothing here till April either.
saying, which they don't hold their word, they just don't hold their word. They're saying that 10 more days and they will open. They say that's the maximum. So that will put us right at the 31st. And of course, without Phil, I will be in the car moving at the curfew hour.
So just on behalf of myself and my readership, I want to thank you for all you've done, Becca. It's priceless, and I greatly appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's humbling. It's very humbling. Okay, here's that barley I picked. Yeah, that's got a grain. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised. And that's definitely soft dough. Definitely soft dough.